Hey, everyone, what's up? I've been here for a few hours just thinking about how unproductive I can sometimes be, and just sort of lamenting the work ethic of certain individuals. Now, completely unrelated to that, we're going to be talking about Brandon Sanderson today, but instead of the usual thing talking about books I have read, we're going to be talking about books that no one has read. That's right, you see, Brandon Sanderson is a little bit different from a lot of his contemporaries in that he is extremely, to almost a comical level, transparent about his work. You know, every single week this guy is updating his progress on everything he's working on. You can go to his website at any time and see a progress bar on how far along he is with stuff. And at the end of each year he releases this big blog post talking about, the things he'd worked on that year and all of his future projects. And there are so many of them. This guy literally had his entire career planned out from the moment. That was my mom who called me. I got her an Audible membership for her birthday, and she can't figure it out. Unfortunately for you, Mother, I care about Mistborn 13 more. Right, Sanderson has so many books planned, and I kind of want to talk about it, because it's some interesting stuff. So we're going to sort of go through the timeline of all of the books that have been confirmed, and also the books that he has hinted at. And I just it's a YouTube video. I want to discuss it. It should be noted, everything I say here, all of these dates I'll mention, aside from the stuff that's, about to come out, it is all very tentative. If you look at this guy's release history, while he has always planned stuff out, sometimes he'll just decide to drop everything and write a 4-novel series about teleporting slugs. So it's kind of unpredictable, but yeah, here's what we got. And I'm also not going to mention every project he's working on because I'm not a psychopath. I will link a page below to the Coppermind, which has all of this information and much more. But you're not here for a wiki, you're here for me, right? So the first thing is a baby book, but I don't care about that because the next thing is Wind and Truth, of course. We now have an official page count for Wind and Truth, and it is well over 1,300 pages. Yeah, I guess they'll figure it out. Obviously, I've talked about this book before, extremely excited for it. Not only because I love Stormlight, but, Sanderson has a very strong record when it comes to ending things, and Wind and Truth is an ending of this first arc here. And it will also mark a hiatus that Sanderson is taking from Stormlight to get some other projects done, and also because, writing Stormlight is probably extremely difficult. But no breaks allowed, because he is coming back quickly, probably early 2025. We don't have an actual date on this one yet. Isleys of the Emberdark. Now, this is a secret project that he only announced recently. Of course, one he was working on without telling anybody. Again, emphasizing how tentative all this is. He just likes to do that sometimes. Also, I know it's Isles. I literally only said that just to freak people out. We're good. I can speak this language. Now, Isles of the Emberdark is interesting to me. It is a reworking / sequel of his novella Sixth of the Dusk, which I never found to be super memorable, but I did really like the world. And we're going to see a common theme here where Sanderson likes to go back to stories he had previously written and then use, all of his gained knowledge and experience to improve them. And I think that is what he is doing here, so I am pretty excited for it. And in a similar vein, also expected in 2025, is White Sand, which is a reworking of the first novel Sanderson ever wrote. Excerpts of which are available in Arcanum Unbounded, and they also, I believe, turned it into a graphic novel. And, this being the first entry in the Cosmere, Sanderson has always said that it is very important to the Cosmere. The big issue, though, is that it's ass. It's not very good. And I think Sanderson knows this. The only way you can have White Sand be, a key part in the Cosmere is to sort of overhaul it, so that's what he is doing here. And I am excited for it, because while really nothing about White Sand stood out to me at all, this is 25 years later, so I'm pretty confident he can salvage it. Now, his next big project that he is going to start writing next year is Mistborn Era 3, the Ghostbloods trilogy. However, he is going to be writing the entire thing before the first one comes out, and that's not expected now until 2028, which leaves 2 years on our schedule vacant, one of which will likely see the release of Horn Eater. This is a Stormlight novella in the same vein as, Edge Dancer and Dawnshard, likely bridging the first and second arcs. He has also thrown around the idea of a novella following Lopen, who is a character from one of Bridge 4 in the Stormlight archive. We may get that around this time too, who knows. And then in 2028, we will be getting the 8th Mistborn book, as well as the second book in the Elantris series. That's right. right. I believe Sanderson has always wanted Elantris to be a trilogy, but it sorta, didn't happen. Well, now it's gonna happen. And I think this is another instance of him going back to an older work that many people see as very flawed. I personally love Elantris, but yeah, I get it. Definitely not one of his better books, but it has so much untapped potential. Like, I think if you take Elantris' world and story and infuse it with, the strengths of Sanderson's current stuff, his plotting, his character work, you get an absolute banger, okay? And he's writing these two Elantris books after Mistborn Era 3, and they are basically going to alternate. Mistborn Elantris, Mistborn Elantris, Mistborn. The Mistborn Ghostbloods, of course, big Mistborn fan, very excited, especially with how The Lost Metal ended. I cannot wait to see where that series goes. It is going to be sort of a 1980s style setting. Obviously won't exactly match up with the technology of that decade, but I think it's where we're going to start to see, this bigger shift the Cosmere will take into sci-fi, and hopefully that Mistborn adaptation can finally come out before these books end. Before we move on from Mistborn, it's worth mentioning that Sanderson has accumulated a little team of collaborators over the past few years, and we are going to start seeing books in his series not written by him. The author Dan Wells is working on the Cosmere book. I don't think we know anything about it or when it'll come out, but that's going to happen. And Jancy Patterson, who worked on Sanderson with the Skyward novellas, is going to be continuing Skyward herself in a sequel series. You also have Isaac Stewart, who was working on the Book of Nails, which is a Mistborn novel, a standalone novel that's set during Era 2. I would imagine, it'd probably be smart to release before Era 3 starts, so I think that might happen. So who knows, if we, don't get a Sanderson release in 2027, we could see this, which might, give people a reason to, reread Era 2, catch up before Era 3 starts. A book that Sanderson has been talking about for a while, but has also stated probably won't happen until after Mistborn Era 3 and the Elantris sequels, is Nightblood, a sequel to Warbreaker. And oh my god, does Warbreaker need a sequel? So many, Warbreaker central things have been happening in the rest of the Cosmere, but we really don't know why. There's, the nice standalone Warbreaker, and then all this extra stuff that's happening, and it's okay, I'm sure there is a reason we have not gotten Nightblood yet, but it will finally happen in, I don't know, what are we at now? 2031? Yeah, let's keep going. So in the early 2030s, Sanderson will be finally returning to Stormlight. Like the first arc, the second arc will be 5 books, probably about the same length. We don't really know anything about it, because we don't know how the first arc is going to end. However, if you are interested, you can actually look up, he has revealed who the POV backstory characters are for all those 5 books, and it does give us some interesting hints at, who the focus of those books may be. Again, it's tentative stuff, but, he plans stuff out so thoroughly, I feel like those might stick. Now, of course, we know how long the first arc of Stormlight took, and the releases were pretty consistent, 3 or 4 years apart. So if we follow a similar timeline, it doesn't really put Stormlight ending until the mid 2040s. So we're talking Stormlight 10 coming out 20 years from now. I will be the same age that Sanderson is now when Stormlight ends. That would, of course, put the man himself nearing his 70s. Now, of course, the second arc might not take that long, especially if it's the only thing he's focusing on. But obviously, that won't be the case. Other books he has planned, and if they do happen, will likely come out during this span of time, include the Aether of the Night trilogy, the Night Brigade, which takes place in the same world as Shadows of Silence and the Forest of Hell, another novella that would be cool to see expanded on, a book called The Silence Divine. He has mentioned projects such as Songs of the Dead, The Grand Apparatus, and Mythos. What are those? I have absolutely no clue. That is not to mention many other standalones he may just decide to announce whenever. He's probably working on several right now. And of course, his non-Cosmere stuff. He's been hard at work with Dan Wells on Dark One for a while, and we don't really have much of it yet. We have one volume of a graphic novel. We got an audiobook. There's a second audiobook coming out next year, I believe, and I think Dan Wells is then going to be continuing on the series with novels. The Arithmetist, oh man. This book is now over 10 years old. It ends on a cliffhanger, and there's been nothing. There has been nothing. And it's too bad, because I think The Arithmetist is a really cool book. It's probably my favorite of his YA works, and it's a supposed to be a trilogy. Oh, nope, gotta write about edgy superheroes and teleporting slugs. Bah. Anyway, so all of this, we'll say 2045. That's where we are right now. But the man is not done. The man is not done. The next likely project after Stormlight will be the Dragonsteel trilogy. Dragonsteel was one of those original books that Sanderson wrote that never got published, and one that he wants to rework because it is extremely important. This series supposedly will tell the origin of the Cosmere, with Hoyd being one of the main characters. This will likely be the series that ties everything together. I feel like Dragonsteel will probably be the point where, like, you sort of have to have read everything, but you still got like 20 years or more to catch up, so yeah, don't complain. And after that, we are presumably getting the finale of the Cosmere. Yes, Sanderson has said that the Cosmere will have a definitive end, and that end, based on all that we know, is likely to be the 4th era of Mistborn. I think this is fitting because while Mistborn wasn't the first Cosmere book, it was really the one that put Sanderson on the map, the reason why he got Wheel of Time, so I think concluding everything with it would be a great send-off. This is going to be the series set in the furthest point in the timeline, which also lends us to believe it will be the end, and it will be a full-on sci-fi space opera with allomancy-powered spaceships. Sounds absolutely insane. And he has also said that all 3 books will be Stormlight length. In my mental timeline right now, that brings us up to 2050. That is when I believe the Cosmere will end. You know, I've made it 26 years on this planet. I feel like if I can make another 26 more, it will be really interesting going back and reading this, seeing how everything actually plays out. Because who knows, like, there's so many hypotheticals, so many things up in the air, but I just think it's so interesting how he has given us all this information, this crazy outline we can look forward to. I'm sure some of these books are going to be some of the best he's ever written. I'm sure some of them will probably suck. But whatever happens, I will be here for it, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds. But as for the immediate future, going all the way back on our timeline, Wind and Truth, out in December. However, they've actually already started releasing it. They're like doing a weekly chapter thing on Tor's website. You can go start the book now. I will not be doing so until we're a bit closer to release, get a bit of a head start. But yeah, it might be something to check out if you're interested, because the book will be so gigantic. And I also have a couple secret projects left to read. When I finish up those, I will be making a full video on all the ones he has released so far. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. You can leave your thoughts on anything Sanderson related in the comments below. I will be back shortly. I have a Wheel of Time video to make. I have a Stephen King video to make. I don't know which one will come out first. It is now Alien Romulus time.
So here's what's happening when I gotta go look at it now. See, I wish you could see my screen, but you can't. So when I press like the library button, it comes up, and on the top it says, but anyway, when I press all, it now comes up as an option. Why do I have a second one there? Oh, okay. And then you had said to me, did I download it? And I see now that there's a little arrow. So am I supposed to download it to my phone?
If you want to listen to it without Wi-Fi, yes.
Okay. You never told me that.
It's heavily implied. That's how things work.
On my list, but I didn't download this other one called Lost and Found by Dr. Tim Sharp. All right, so I need to download it, and then I need to test it also just to see if it works. See, this is all I needed was to talk to you. Let me see your face. Now, hold on. Oh, you're shaved. That's why you look like an egg.
I don't remember where we were.